Welcome to Ask the Mountlake Terrace Cop. I'm Teresa Whipple. Sergeant Pat Lowe, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Today is the day where you're going to discuss gun safety.
Okay.
And the reason is that more and more people are purchasing firearms for personal protection, and there's some questions that go along with that, like how do they make sure that they're trained to use the weapons, and also how do they store them to make sure they're safe?
Excellent. And there's more people buying guns nowadays than it seems like every year more and more people are purchasing firearms for home protection.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a political environment or what it is, but it's happening.
Right.
And so since that's happening, it's probably a good idea for people to have some good understanding on how to safely store or safely use a firearm.
Yeah.
So training with the firearm is very important, very important. So what I write is if you're going to have to use a firearm for protecting your family, you kind of want it to be second nature. It's like driving a car. You have to be trained to drive a car. So if you get into a situation on the road where you have to take immediate action, you don't want to have to think about which way do I turn the steering wheel. It's the same thing with the firearm. So lots of practice, lots of training. The training can happen at home. It can happen at a firearms range. So that's pretty darn important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people that I've spoken with do think that they feel like they're protected because they purchased the firearm, but they aren't necessarily doing that regular training. So it's a good advice for people.
Yeah, and people think, well, I don't have time to go to the range, and it's expensive to shoot a lot of ammunition, but you can do a lot of the training at home. Some of the training includes just learning how to take your firearm out of the holster,
Mm-hmm.
or load your firearm, or pull the trigger. And you can practice a lot of that in your house, such as dry firing.
Mm-hmm.
You can make sure that there's no live ammunition around, be as safe as possible, and then just practice dry firing at home, or practice pulling your gun out of the holster at home, or practice loading, practice your grip. All that stuff can happen at home.
Okay.
And then when you finally do go to the range, you can spend an hour actually shooting against a target and so on and so forth. And find someone to help you. Find you can go take classes.
Yeah.
Any of the local gun stores offer classes. Or you can find someone who is certified firearms instructor, or find someone who's just really good at firearms. But don't just use anyone to help you, because you probably get some bad information.
Right.
So kind of know who you have.
Okay, very
So,
good.
yeah.
Thank you. That's great information. And then what about storing the weapon at home? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about making sure that it's safe to have it for your family.
Yeah, there's a couple of schools of thought. Are you storing a firearm just because you want to own one, but it's not necessarily for protection, or do you want to have a firearm stored for home protection? So every firearm should be locked and stored in your house in one way or another. Especially if you have small children in the house.
Yeah.
If you're just a single person who lives alone and you want to have a firearm in your nightstand, I suppose that's fine, but that's not going to prevent someone from breaking in and stealing it.
Yeah.
So you can have bedside safes they're called biometric safes, so they use your fingerprint to open it, or you can have a little key lock, and they're very, very quick to access. Or you can store it in your garage in a gun safe somewhere.
Okay.
So storing it in your house is fairly easy. Might have to spend $100 or something on a cheap safe, and you can spend as much money as you want on a more expensive one.
Okay.
Storing weapons in your car, that's kind of a big one, because how many cars get broken into?
Oh, all the
And
time
I
these
know.
days.
And
Yeah.
I really think that every honest citizen should be able to protect themselves with a firearm. But I really think all the bad guys shouldn't have a firearm. And if you have an honest citizen who has their gun stolen out of their car because they maybe weren't so responsible, then the bad guy has your gun, and we don't want bad guys to have guns.
Yeah.
So a couple real quick ideas for your car is, don't just leave it under your seat of your car. Don't leave it unsecured in your car ever. So if you're going to have a gun and it's in your car, maybe keep it with you on your person when you leave.
Yeah.
Or they actually sell very inexpensive $30, $35 safes that have a cable that it can attach to somewhere in the interior of your car. So if a bad guy was to break in your car, they will have a very difficult time getting that safe out, and your firearm will be stored inside that safe.
Okay.
So just don't leave a gun in your car for someone to break in and steal it.
Yeah, I've seen that when I've gone through police reports, that happening, and sometimes even the vehicle's unlocked and the firearm is stolen. So that doesn't seem like a good idea.
It's pretty frustrating to go handle a report where someone has their guns taken out of a car that they didn't lock their door.
Yeah.
That's so
Okay.
easy. It's so easy to solve that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as always, good information. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll be back again soon with another episode of Ask the Mountlake Terrace Cop.